The bustling hangar bay of the Galactic Union's flagship, the Eclipse, was a cacophony of clinks, whirs, and the occasional alien expletive. Engineers of every conceivable species swarmed around the latest dilemma, a malfunctioning hyperdrive engine. For the crew, this was a catastrophe. For the human, it was Tuesday. John Carter, an Earth engineer, stood at the periphery, observing with a bemused expression. His presence on the Eclipse was a diplomatic gesture, a nod to humanity's burgeoning role in the galaxy. However, his expertise was often overshadowed by the more advanced technologies of the Union, which the aliens were quick to remind him of. The hyperdrive was a behemoth of interlocking parts, glowing conduits, and alien alloys. It was a marvel of engineering, capable of folding space-time itself. Today, however, it was little more than an oversized paperweight. A group of Raxian engineers, led by the ever-exasperated Zogthar, was huddled around the engine's control panel, their antennae twitching in frustration. "This is unfixable," Zogthar declared, his compound eyes reflecting the sputtering lights of the console. The other engineers nodded in solemn agreement, their appendages drooping in defeat. John, who had been leaning against a nearby crate, straightened up. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked, his voice carrying a casual confidence that seemed out of place amidst the somber atmosphere. Zoltar turned, his mandibles clicking in what John had learned was a mix of skepticism and mild curiosity. "Human, this is beyond your primitive understanding. The molecular destabilizer is completely fried, and the quantum flux regulator is out of sync. It's an engineering—" John nodded thoughtfully, as if parsing the alien jargon. "Sounds like a challenge," he replied, stepping forward with an easygoing grin. The engineers parted reluctantly, allowing him access to the control panel. As John began his inspection, the aliens watched with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. To them, humans were an enigma, a species that had clawed its way into the galactic community with a blend of audacity and unpredictability. They were known for their peculiar solutions to problems, often bypassing complex procedures, with what the aliens considered reckless simplicity. John traced his fingers over the intricate circuitry, his eyes narrowing in concentration. He could feel the tension in the air, the silent judgment of his alien peers. Yet he seemed unfazed, his demeanor as relaxed as if he were fixing a leaky faucet back on Earth. After a few minutes, he stepped back, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "Yep, I see the problem," he announced, eliciting a wave of incredulous murmurs from the gathered engineers. Zogtar's antennae quivered with skepticism. "You do?" "Sure do," John replied, reaching into his tool bag. He rummaged around for a moment, then pulled out a roll of duct tape with a flourish. The alien stared at the shiny adhesive strip as if it were an artifact from a forgotten era. Zoltar's mandibles clacked in disbelief. "What is that?" "Duct tape," John said, a twinkle in his eye. "A miracle of human engineering." The engineers exchanged dubious glances, their skepticism palpable, but John seemed undeterred. With a deftness born of practice, he began applying the tape to the hyperdrive's exposed circuits, humming a tune that was lost to the cacophony of the hangar. The aliens watched in a stunned silence, their disbelief gradually giving way to a begrudging respect. John worked quickly, his movements precise and confident. To them, it was like watching a primitive ritual, a strange dance of adhesive and ingenuity. Finally, he stepped back, admiring his handiwork. "That should do it," he said, dusting off his hands with a satisfied smile. Zogtar approached the console hesitantly, his eyes flitting between John and the taped-up hyperdrive. "You cannot be serious," he muttered, but there was a note of curiosity in his voice. "Give it a try," John encouraged, his tone light yet confident. With a resigned sigh, Zogtar activated the console. The hyperdrive hummed to life, its lights flickering back into a steady glow. The engineers gasped in unison, their disbelief replaced by astonishment. The engine, once deemed beyond repair, was operational. John crossed his arms, his grin widening as he watched the aliens scramble to verify the results. It was a small victory, but one that spoke volumes about human tenacity. In a galaxy of advanced technologies and inscrutable sciences, sometimes all it took was a little duct tape and a lot of nerve. As the hyperdrive settled into a steady rhythm, the Eclipse hangar echoed with the flurry of alien engineers verifying the unexpected success. Zogthar, still processing the miracle before him, turned to John with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "How did you?" Zogthar began, his antennae twitching with curiosity. John shrugged, a playful glint in his eye. "Sometimes it's not about the complexity of the solution, but the simplicity of it," he replied, as though revealing an ancient Earth secret. "Duct tape fixes everything." The other engineers gathered around, their earlier skepticism replaced with admiration. They poked and prodded at the tape, their expressions a blend of wonder and confusion. To them, this adhesive was a revelation, an unexpected tool in the realm of high-tech solutions. Amidst the commotion, Commander Verax, a towering Xylothian with an imposing presence, strode into the hangar. His multifaceted eyes scanned the scene, landing on the now functional hyperdrive and the human who had achieved the impossible. Verax's expression was inscrutable, a stoic mask that betrayed little of his thoughts. "I see the hyperdrive is operational," Verax stated, his voice a deep rumble that commanded attention. "I assume we have you to thank, Mr. Carter?" John nodded, his smile unwavering. "Just lending a hand," he replied modestly, though the hint of pride was unmistakable. Verax regarded him for a moment, then gave a nod of acknowledgement. "Your methods are unconventional, but effective. The Galactic Union appreciates your ingenuity." John chuckled, the sound light against the backdrop of alien awe. "Glad I could help. Always happy to show what humans can do." The commander's gaze lingered on the duct tape, a faint glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "I must admit, I never thought such a simple tool could achieve what our most advanced technologies could not." "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best," John said, echoing a wisdom that transcended galaxies. As the engineers resumed their duties, some still marveling at the tape, Verax motioned for John to follow him. They walked through the bustling corridors of the Eclipse, the ship's design an intricate blend of aesthetics and functionality. Alien crew members of various species moved with purpose, their tasks a testament to the ship's importance in the galaxy. "I must ask," Verax began, his tone more conversational, "how did you know that would work?" John considered the question, his hands tucked casually into his pockets. "Well, on Earth, duct tape is kind of a universal fix-it tool. We've used it to patch up everything from leaky roofs to broken hearts." Verax arched a brow, a gesture he had picked up from his human counterparts. "Broken hearts?" John laughed, the sound echoing warmly through the corridor. "It's a saying. But seriously, sometimes you just have to try something, even if it seems crazy. That's what we humans do best, find solutions where none seem possible." They reached the observation deck, the vast expanse of space stretching beyond the transparent walls. Stars twinkled like distant beacons, and nearby planets hovered like marbles in a celestial playground. The view was breathtaking, a reminder of the galaxy's endless possibilities. Verax stood beside John, both men gazing out at the universe. "Your people are remarkable, Mr. Carter. In a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, you possess a unique perspective." John nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We've had to adapt a lot on Earth. Maybe that's why we're good at thinking outside the box. Or, in this case, outside the spaceship." Verax chuckled softly, a rare sound that spoke volumes of his growing respect for the human engineer. "Perhaps there is much we can learn from each other." As they stood there, United by the shared wonder of the cosmos, John couldn't help but feel a swell of pride for his species. In a universe that often seemed overwhelming, humans had carved out a niche for themselves, one duct-taped solution at a time. Their moment of camaraderie was interrupted by a soft chime from Varex's communicator. The commander glanced at the device, his expression shifting to one of mild concern. "It seems we have another issue to address." John raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Another hyperdrive problem?" "Not quite," Varex replied, turning to face him. "A diplomatic envoy from the Zinthari is arriving shortly, and they're known for their peculiar expectations. I could use your help navigating this situation." John grinned, the prospect of another challenge invigorating. "Count me in. I've always wanted to meet the Zinthari. I hear they're big on ceremony." Varax nodded, a hint of relief in his eyes. "Indeed, and given your unique approach, I believe you might just be the perfect liaison." As they left the observation deck, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but with a little ingenuity and a roll of duct tape, anything was possible. The Zinthari diplomatic vessel docked with the Eclipse with a flourish that seemed almost theatrical, befitting a species known for their elaborate customs and penchant for grand gestures. The docking bay was transformed into a veritable stage, with banners unfurling and lights dimming to create an atmosphere of solemnity and importance. John Carter stood alongside Commander Varax at the entrance to the bay, watching as the Zinthari delegation prepared to disembark. The Zinthari were a tall, elegant species, their skin shimmering with iridescent hues that shifted with their moods. They were known for their strict adherence to protocol and an almost obsessive attention to detail. "Remember," Varax murmured to John, "the Zinthari value precision and ceremony. Any deviation from their expectations could be seen as an affront." John nodded, his expression serious but with a hint of mischief. "Got it. Stick to the script, no improvising." As the airlock cycled open, the Zinthari delegation emerged, led by Ambassador Zurith, a figure of striking presence. His robes flowed like liquid silver, and his eyes, a deep shade of violet, surveyed the assembled crew with an air of regal authority. "Greetings, esteemed representatives of the Galactic Union," Zyrith intoned, his voice resonant and melodic. "We bring the warmth of the Zinthari people and our hopes for continued cooperation." Barrack stepped forward, executing a formal bow. "Ambassador Zyrath, you honor us with your presence. We are eager to strengthen our alliance." John, standing slightly behind Varax, followed suit with a respectful nod, hoping his casual demeanor would not be misconstrued as disrespect. Zirath's gaze landed on him, curiosity flickering in those violet depths. "And you must be the human engineer I have heard so much about," Zirath said, his tone both inquisitive and somewhat amused. John offered a friendly smile. "John Carter, at your service. I hear you have quite the reputation for diplomacy." Zirath inclined his head, acknowledging the compliment. "Indeed, and I understand you possess a certain unconventional approach to problem-solving." "That's one way to put it," John replied, his grin widening. The formalities concluded, the delegation was escorted to a conference room where discussions of trade agreements and mutual interests were to take place. John found himself seated beside Varax, who subtly signaled for him to observe and offer input when necessary. The talks began smoothly, with Zyrith outlining the Zinthari's interests in rare minerals and advanced technologies. Varax reciprocated with offers of cooperation and shared resources. The atmosphere was cordial, both sides engaging in the delicate dance of diplomacy. However, as the discussions progressed, a subtle tension emerged over a particular clause related to the exchange of cultural artifacts. The Zinthari were insistent on acquiring a specific item from the Union's collection, a relic of significant historical value. Varax, maintaining his composure, explained the Union's reservations, citing the artifact's importance to their own history. The conversation teetered on the brink of conflict, with both sides unwilling to yield. Sensing the growing impasse, John leaned in, his voice low but confident. Maybe there's a way to honor both parties' interests without anyone losing out. Xyrath turned his attention to John, intrigued. What do you propose, human? John paused, choosing his words carefully. How about a cultural exchange program? Both sides could share replicas or digital scans of their artifacts. It preserves the originals and allows everyone to appreciate each other's history. The room fell silent, the suggestion hanging in the air like a lifeline. Xyrath considered the proposal, his expression thoughtful. An intriguing idea, Xyrath mused, a hint of approval in his tone. It would allow us to share our heritage without compromising its integrity. Varix nodded, seizing the opportunity. It would strengthen our cultural ties and foster greater understanding between our people. Xyrath's lips curved into a smile, the tension dissipating. Very well, let us explore this proposal further. As the discussions resumed with renewed vigor, John felt a sense of satisfaction. Once again, a simple idea had bridged the gap between complex interests. It wasn't duct tape, but it was close enough. The meeting concluded on a high note, with both delegations expressing optimism for the future. As the Zenthari prepared to depart, Xyrath approached John, his demeanor warm. You have a gift, John Carter, Xyrath said, extending a hand in a gesture of friendship. Your ability to see beyond the immediate is a rare trait. John shook the ambassador's hand, his grip firm. Just doing my part. It's amazing what you can achieve with a little creative thinking. As the Zenthari vessel undocked and slipped into the void of space, John stood with Varax, reflecting on the day's events. The commander clapped him on the shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie. You continue to surprise me, John, Varax said, his tone one of genuine respect. John chuckled, glancing at the stars beyond. Just wait until you see what else I've got up my sleeve. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where challenges loomed like distant stars, John knew that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, innovate, and connect. And with allies like Varax and the Zenthari, the future seemed as bright as the cosmos itself. As the Eclipse resumed its journey through the star-speckled expanse, John Carter found himself back in the engineering bay, where the hum of machinery was a comforting symphony. He was tinkering with a small device, a personal project that combined bits of alien tech with familiar Earth gadgets. It was a hobby that kept him grounded amidst the vastness of space. His peaceful moment was interrupted by the arrival of Zogthar, who approached with a mixture of eagerness and hesitation. The Raxian engineer, now a reluctant admirer of human ingenuity, had been observing John more closely since the hyperdrive incident. John, Zogthar began, his mandibles clicking softly. I have been considering your unique methods. I wonder if you might assist with another issue we've encountered. John set down his tools, intrigued. Sure thing. What's the problem? Zothar gestured for John to follow him to a nearby workstation. There, a holographic display showed a schematic of the ship's environmental systems. We've detected fluctuations in the oxygen regulation unit. It's not critical yet, but it could become a problem if not addressed. John studied the schematic, nodding thoughtfully. All right, let's see what we're dealing with. The two engineers worked side by side, Zogthar providing technical details while John applied his intuitive problem-solving skills. The issue, as it turned out, was a misalignment in the oxygen flow conduits, causing intermittent pressure drops. As they delved deeper into the system, John couldn't resist a bit of humor. Back on Earth, we'd probably just give it a good whack and hope for the best. Zogthar's antennae twitched in what John had come to recognize as amusement. I suspect that approach might not be suitable here. John grinned, reaching for his toolkit. Maybe not, but let's see if we can find a middle ground. With a combination of careful adjustments and a few unconventional tweaks, they managed to stabilize the oxygen flow. Zogthar watched in fascination as John applied a small strip of duct tape to secure a loose connection, a gesture that had become somewhat of a signature move. "There," John declared, stepping back to admire their handiwork. "That should hold until we can get some proper parts." Zogthar nodded, his respect for the human engineer growing. "Your resourcefulness is commendable, John. I am beginning to understand why the Union values your contributions." John shrugged modestly, though he appreciated the compliment. "Sometimes you just have to make do with what you've got. It's all about finding the right balance." Their collaboration was interrupted by an announcement over the ship's intercom, summoning the crew to the main briefing room. John exchanged a curious glance with Zogthar before they made their way to the designated area. The briefing room was abuzz with chatter as crew members gathered, a mix of species and uniforms creating a vibrant tapestry of life aboard the Eclipse. Commander Varix stood at the front, his presence commanding attention as the room settled into silence. "Thank you all for coming," Varix began, his gaze sweeping over the assembled crew. "We have received a distress signal from a nearby research outpost on the planet Tarsus 4. They are experiencing an environmental crisis and require immediate assistance." A holographic map of Tarsus 4 appeared, highlighting the outpost location amidst a sprawling jungle. The planet, known for its volatile weather patterns, was home to a small team of scientists studying its unique ecosystem. "The outpost's climate control systems have failed," Varix continued, "and the extreme temperatures are threatening their survival. Our mission is to provide aid and restore." John felt a familiar thrill at the prospect of another challenge. He had always been drawn to situations that required quick thinking and adaptability, and this mission promised to be just that. Varix's gaze landed on John, a hint of expectation in his eyes. "John, given your recent successes, I'd like you to lead the engineering team on this mission. Your ability to devise practical solutions will be invaluable." John nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the excitement of the task ahead. "I'm on it, Commander. We'll get them back up and running." With the briefing concluded, the crew dispersed to prepare for the mission. John assembled a team of engineers, including Zogthar, and began organizing the necessary equipment and supplies. As they worked, Zogthar approached John, his demeanor earnest. "I am eager to learn from you, John. Your methods, while unorthodox, have proven effective." John smiled, appreciating the Raxian's willingness to embrace new ideas. "Stick with me, Zogthar, and you'll see that sometimes thinking outside the box is the best way to solve a problem." With their preparations complete, the team boarded a shuttle bound for Tarsus 4. As the ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, John gazed out at the lush landscape below, a tapestry of vibrant greens and swirling clouds. The outpost came into view, a cluster of structures nestled amidst the dense foliage. The landing was smooth, and, as they disembarked, the oppressive heat and humidity hit them like a wall. The scientists, grateful but visibly stressed, greeted the team. Their leader, Dr. Alara Voss, a determined and resourceful woman, briefed them on the situation. "The climate control systems failed unexpectedly," she explained, her brow furrowed with concern. "We've been unable to stabilize the temperature, and our equipment is at risk of overheating." John assessed the situation, noting the strained expressions of the scientists. "We'll do everything we can to get your systems back online," he assured them, his confidence infectious. With the team in tow, John set to work, diving into the intricacies of the outpost's systems. As they navigated the maze of conduits and control panels, John's knack for improvisation proved invaluable, turning obstacles into opportunities for creative solutions. Through a combination of technical expertise and a bit of duct tape magic, the team managed to restore the climate control systems, bringing much-needed relief to the beleaguered scientists. As the temperature stabilized, Dr. Voss approached John, her gratitude evident. "You've saved us, John. I don't know how you managed it, but we're in your debt." John waved off the praise with a modest smile. "Just doing my job. Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference." With the crisis averted, the team prepared to return to the Eclipse, their mission a resounding success. As they boarded the shuttle, John couldn't help but reflect on the power of human ingenuity and the bonds forged through shared challenges. In a galaxy filled with uncertainties, one thing remained clear. With a little creativity and a lot of heart, anything was possible. As the shuttle ascended from Tarsus 4, leaving the verdant planet behind, John Carter reclined in his seat, feeling the satisfying hum of the engines beneath him. The mission had been a success, and the exhilaration of overcoming yet another challenge lingered pleasantly in his thoughts. Beside him, Zolkthar was absorbed in reviewing the data from their repairs, his antennae occasionally twitching in concentration. John glanced over, amused by the Raxian's newfound enthusiasm for human problem-solving. "You know, Zolthar," John began, breaking the comfortable silence, "I think you're getting the hang of this thinking-outside-the-box thing." Zolkthar looked up, his compound eyes reflecting a mix of pride and curiosity. "Your methods are unconventional, but I must admit they are effective. I have learned much from observing you." John chuckled, appreciating the compliment. "Well, you've got a knack for it. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective." Their conversation was interrupted by the shuttle's pilot, a cheerful Skelvian with a penchant for banter. "Approaching the Eclipse, folks. Should be a smooth docking." John nodded, watching as the massive silhouette of the Eclipse grew larger in the viewport. The ship was a beacon of unity and collaboration, a testament to the diverse species that called it home. Once docked, the team disembarked, greeted by a welcoming committee of crew members eager to hear about the mission. Commander Varix was among them, his expression a blend of relief and approval. "Welcome back," Varix said, clasping John's hand in a firm handshake. "I trust the mission went well?" John nodded, a satisfied grin on his face. "The outpost's systems are stable, and the scientists are safe. Couldn't have done it without the team, though." Varix's gaze shifted to Zogthar, who stood nearby, his posture straighter than usual. "I hear you've been quite the asset, Zogthar." Zogthar's mandibles clicked in what John recognized as a Raxian equivalent of a smile. "John's methods are enlightening. I am grateful for the opportunity to learn." With the mission debrief completed, the crew dispersed, leaving John with a rare moment of solitude. He strolled through the corridors of the Eclipse, reflecting on the events that had unfolded since his arrival. Each challenge had been a testament to the power of collaboration and the unexpected solutions that often came from the most unlikely of sources. His wanderings eventually led him to the observation deck, where the vastness of space stretched endlessly beyond the transparent walls. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds, and distant nebulae painted the cosmos in vibrant hues. As John stood there, lost in thought, he was joined by Dr. Ilara Voss, who had accompanied them back to the Eclipse to finalize her reports. She approached with a warm smile, her demeanor relaxed now that the crisis had passed. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, gesturing to the view. "Not at all," John replied, gesturing for her to stand beside him. "It's quite the sight, isn't it?" Ilara nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars. "I never tire of it. No matter how many planets I visit, the beauty of space always takes my breath away." They stood in companionable silence, the weight of recent events gradually giving way to a sense of peace. John found himself reflecting on the connections forged through shared adversity, the friendships that had blossomed amidst the challenges. "You know," Ilara said, breaking the quiet, "I've worked with many engineers, but you have a way of finding solutions that others overlook." John shrugged, a modest smile playing on his lips. I guess it comes down to looking at things from a different angle. Sometimes the simplest answer is the one that works. Elara chuckled softly. I suppose that's true. And it's a reminder of why cooperation is so important in what we do. Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chime of the ship's intercom, signaling an incoming message. John and Elara exchanged curious glances before making their way to the nearest comm panel. The screen flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of Commander Verax. "Attention, crew of the Eclipse," he announced, his tone carrying a note of excitement. "We have been invited to a diplomatic summit on the planet Orinthia, where representatives from across the galaxy will gather to discuss future cooperation." John felt a thrill of anticipation at the prospect of another diplomatic mission. Orinthia was renowned for its stunning landscapes and rich cultural heritage, a fitting backdrop for such an important gathering. Verax continued, "This summit presents an opportunity to strengthen alliances and showcase the unique contributions of each species. I expect everyone to be on their best behavior." As the announcement concluded, John turned to Elara with a grin. "Looks like our next adventure's coming up sooner than expected." Elara nodded, her eyes alight with excitement. "Orinthia is a fascinating place. I've always wanted to visit, and with the Eclipse representing the Union, it's bound to be an interesting summit." With preparations underway for the journey to Orinthia, John found himself swept up in the flurry of activity that accompanied such an endeavor. The crew worked tirelessly to ensure everything was in order, from diplomatic protocols to technical checks. In the midst of the chaos, John was approached by Zogthar, who had become something of a confidant in their shared experiences. The Raxian engineer's antennae twitched with anticipation. "John, I have heard much about Orinthia," Zogthar said, his tone eager. "I am curious to see how our skills might be applied in such a setting." John clapped him on the back, his smile infectious. "I'm sure we'll find plenty of opportunities to put our heads together, and who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way." As the Eclipse set course for Orinthia, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast and filled with uncertainties, but with each new encounter came the chance to build bridges and forge lasting connections. And as always, he knew that with a little ingenuity and a lot of heart, anything was possible.